Hello and welcome to another episode of Loose Canon. We are back again, a little bit late, which is kind of our norm. I'm not enthusiastic about that being our norm. I try to start, but there's always one more thing to do as we get going in the day. Um, but we're back again. We're gonna be talking about one of the Final Shape lore books, Chirality. Is that how you pronounce that?
Sure.
Oh,
Put it in Google. I
that's
Chirality. Chirality.
okay.
Chirality. You get like 5 different pronunciations, and then
Chirality,
some of them are insane.
chirality,
Hmm.
chirality,
I don't think it has
chirality.
Thanks
come
for
through.
watching.
I don't think it came through, but it is chirality. I had one of those YouTube pronunciations pulled
Nice.
up.
Nice.
Are we getting video? Okay, we are getting video. It was just taking a second there. So yeah, we're gonna be talking about the lore book Chirality, talking about it and in fact also just straight up reading it. That's how we've been doing the past few episodes. I really like doing that. As I was just telling Rhino, I haven't read the book and I really enjoy having my first time reading the book here. So like I'm kind of discovering the little things and getting to bounce it off with you. Um bounce off the ideas with you. I think that's really,
Yep.
really a fun way to handle it. So we're going to be talking about that today, and Act Two just came out this week as well. So why don't we talk a little bit about the first week of Act Two before we get into the real structure of the show? How have you liked it so far? I saw you had a tweet
Uh
about it.
yeah, no. I mean, I liked it a lot. I don't have any issues with the way that they're pacing content.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I'm a casual. I'm a I'm a massive lore enthusiast, and that
Mm-hmm.
takes up most of the time as far as Destiny is concerned. But like when I'm not playing Destiny, all I am doing is thinking of it in between life. So it's like I feel like I'm always playing, even though I'm not playing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and we got great news just before Act Two dropped that Episode Two will do what I was asking for. I think in our last episode,
Yeah,
that
you said that.
the acts will drop full, and it's here's Act One, here's Act Two, here's Act Three, and that's what I'm really excited for because even if it's just like it'll take me a week to get through because I have an hour here, I have an hour there. It's just like I just want the full chunk of story, and I think that will help tell a better story as well.
Yeah, it feels a little disjointed the way they did it right now, just because they've kind of they started off at that pace and now they've thrown it forward. So I've seen a couple of remarks like like not understanding
Hmm.
exactly what just happened, because it feels like they dumped a lot more on top of what, if you're going to
Hmm.
do something paced out, you've got a planned out drop for everything. And then when
Hmm.
you switch it up in the middle, all of a sudden you've got this big chunk that you
Well,
just threw on top of the little chunk. It's like,
they haven't done anything yet. It's still following their original format, though. What do you mean by that?
no, that's what I'm going to say. Like, okay,
Oh,
so now we're going to, yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. So now we're gonna have to go, oh, okay, here's a big chunk. Everybody's gonna be rushing through that last act three. So
Hmm.
act three, whenever we get through it,
Hmm.
it's already gonna feel disjointed
Well,
because
yeah.
everybody's kind of waiting for. Because I know a lot of people right now feel like, oh, we know what's gonna happen next, sorta, but they need that. They need that to close it out, I guess.
I don't really
The,
understand what you're saying. I gotta be honest. You're throwing me for a loop here.
I guess because okay, I'm thinking when I'm talking, so it's like it's coming out stream
It
of
sounds like
consciousness.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So when you play the battlegrounds right now,
Uh-huh.
it doesn't it doesn't fully make sense because it was a big drop on top of the little story we had. Does that make sense?
Okay, because you're saying
Yeah.
how you get because the battlegrounds, there's three new battlegrounds that like tell a linear path of going deeper. Sorry for playing with that. A linear path going deeper into Nessus. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
I've
Yes,
only
that's
done
what
the
I mean.
first two so far.
Okay.
Um, I didn't really feel that though. I felt like it just made sense. Like you're going into Nessus. I don't think that was intended to be here's Battleground week 1, here's Battleground week 2. I think it was always intended to be here's week 1 act 2. Here are
Well, in the past, remember with the Kaido battlegrounds, with the Cabal battlegrounds, we got one, and then later we got another one, and then
yeah.
later we got another one.
Yeah, and I think with if that's what you mean the difference is, I think that is something that and I like that. I like that we don't have to wait. And that's really what it is with why I'm a fan of getting the entire act in one drop because I feel like as much as they'd like to think of each week being an episode and each act being and this is in term I'm going to use some shared terminology and by this I mean like in television, not in seasons and episodes as Bungie now uses them. Each week is an episode of a TV show and
Uh,
each act is a season or maybe not even a season but like a part of a season which is so fucking popular right now and I'm not a fan of it. Um where so they think it's okay like here's your first episode of season 1 and here's your second episode of season 2 and here's your third episode of season 3 and it's like and then in some time you'll get episode 4 and episode 5 and episode 6 and then some time episode 7 episode 8 and then finale of the Echoes season uh which it's very confusing that they did it this way um for this analogy but I think with this type of story it is better to be like here's your meaty episode, here's not your 23-minute episode, here's your hour long episode of all the weeks of the act put into one. And instead of it being like you get like a little drip and it's like okay there was some good information there but then a week goes by and you kind of forgot that information so they have to play a little bit of catch up and you're like wait a second what happened last week
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
really remember.
yeah,
But where if you have the full act, it's here's the story, and then it's like here's the start of the act. Where in Act 1, it was like something's fucking up with Nessus. Go figure it out, and it ends. We know who is doing whatever's happening on Nessus. We don't know what their goal is, and that's not important right now because we just figured out who it is, and that's like a nice compact story that if you got to play through from start to finish, you'd be like, oh yeah, that was nice. Like you got maybe not a meal, but you got a full appetizer.
yeah. I could see that.
And so that's why I'm excited. And with that, the point was, I think the three battlegrounds, are they all called Delve or are they called different things?
I wasn't paying attention.
At the very least, the first one is called Delve. And the point is to delve into Nessus and go deeper and deeper. I think those three battlegrounds kind of illustrate why that works. Because if you told me, here's your first battleground, and then it's like, all right, now take a week off. We'll go back down into Nessus next week. We'll go a little further next week. I'd be like, what the fuck? Why are we taking a week off? Let's go today.
Yeah.
Let's go now.
What's it taking so long to get down
Yeah.
there?
And this is like the smallest of wish because it's just so easy to queue it right up and just go into the next one. But I think it would be really cool with future content if they have this like this battleground structure where it's like here are the three battlegrounds that like take you further into an enemy stronghold. If they had like a playlist option where it's just like you do the one, you do the two, you do the three, it's bam bam bam, it just queues you right up into the next.
Oh, like it just rolls into the
Yeah, it
next.
just rolls into because you're picking up from the boss room. So it's just like, yeah,
True.
like let's just keep going. Let's just open that next door. Don't even do another loading screen. Just send me right in. Maybe that'd be
True.
technically difficult. I can imagine it would be technically difficult, but it would be cool if they could.
Yeah. Well, I like the battlegrounds. I mean, I've always been a fan of battlegrounds. The psyops ones were a little wonky
Yeah.
at times,
They
but
they
I
had
like
that
the
like break in
original,
the break in the structure where you go into the
the
psionic realm
mine.
or whatever the hell it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's like,
yeah,
oh, okay, I guess. Throw
yeah. And you go in
synaptic
like this.
spears for an hour.
I know that that I wasn't a fan of. I like
Yeah.
the original battlegrounds where you're just like you're either fighting downhill the whole
Mhm.
way or uphill the whole way,
Mhm.
and it culminates in a boss fight.
Yeah, it, like,
But the
travels
boss fight,
across the patrol space. It was like, "Oh, this is awesome. Awesome
yeah,
use of space,
yeah.
like, that just sits here."
And I
Yeah,
feel like
that
that's what they did with Nessus. They did the
yeah.
same thing. It's like you're in a descent and you just keep
Mhm.
going down further and further.
And thank you, Manuel, in chat for saying for correcting me. The first one is Delve. I gotta stop playing with that. The first one is Delve. The second one is Conduit. I don't know what the third one is because I haven't done it. But I do really like this idea of like a battleground is like here's like the actual mission. This is our goal. We're progressing further and further, and we're picking up from where we left off. Whereas like strikes are their own little contained thing. Excuse me. But yeah, like, and I've really enjoyed the battlegrounds I've done. I've done 3 of them now, because I had to repeat one. I've
Yeah,
done 3 of them now, and not including the first acts, but the pacing of them is much better. I like the enemy density because I feel like, especially with Prismatic, I have a build that maybe it's good, maybe it's not. It's fun, and that's all that I really care about, where I'm
yeah.
optimizing, the stasis grenade, the strand melee, the strand threaded specter dodge, and gunpowder gamble. And I know it's probably like as a hunter, it's like, well,
Oh, that's so weird.
how are you not using the void aspect? And it's like, because I'm not going invis. My goal is not to go invis. My goal is I throw my melee. I kill a whole bunch of shit. I catch it and I have another melee. I just cleared the field of all the ads and I have my melee and now I have a gunpowder gamble for any bigger ads. And if I don't, it's like, well, here's a stasis grenade, and I pair that with Celestial Nighthawk and Still Hunt. So it's like
That's crazy.
I have good ad clear, and then I have good boss damage, and it's just like we get to the boss room and I'm like, all right, time to fucking, shoot this boss, and it's like, oh, it's dead. It's dead already.
That's
Everything
crazy.
just falls over. It's so great.
Yeah, we had I've done quite a few of the battlegrounds now
Uh-huh.
on the in the rotation, the playlist or whatever with the modifiers.
Yeah, yeah,
I like that. But we had a little bit of trouble on this last one where it was the one with the boss that looks like a baby Atheon, and I forget which one that one is.
that might be the second.
And
That might be the last one.
it's well, okay, so it's in a room and you have these two plates that you and your other fire team members, two people have to stand on the plates, and then
Hmm.
the three little cubes up top up here, and you shoot the
Okay, no,
cubes,
that's
and
Conduit. That's the second one.
okay. So that's the one where you do damage on that guy, and then
Hmm.
he teleports to the other platform, and then you just spam him and shoot him and whittle him
Yeah,
down.
and
Well,
that's why I didn't
we
notice he
didn't
was a mini Atheon because he went down so fucking fast. It
yeah,
was kind of
I was
ridiculous.
gonna say, the last time we did it, I don't know if we weren't just paying attention or if I was just having too much fun
Uh,
trying to like do different weapons. We didn't burn him, and so he went right back, and he had this massive chunk of health still, and we're like, "Oh my
oh,
god, we got to do another phase," and another. It was just ridiculous, and then so like we had to do all that crap all over again.
uh-huh.
So if you're not paying attention and you don't burn them down fast enough in that time period, you got to do it all over again and then get them back
That's
over
not
there.
bad. Yeah, I like him. I like the
Well,
pacing. I like the structure. I like the environment. I like that they have what are they called? Pistons. I think that
yeah,
what
I
you
love
hit
those
with your
stupid things.
yeah, and you
I
go and
love
you
them.
collect all the radiolaria samples, and it's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
this
love that
is.
it's only one button push now,
Hmm.
and it's funny because you're like racing all your teammates to get to the
Yeah. And you
so
share them
everybody
too,
keeps
which
going to
is
the
nice.
same
Like
one. Yeah, I
everyone
know.
gets to get
Yeah,
them, but everyone gets it. Like, yeah,
yeah.
they really, in my opinion, they really succeeded with the battlegrounds.
Yeah.
This part of the act especially, they're very fun.
One
I can't wait
time,
for
one
more.
time we, one time we were doing one, and our teammate was like all the way at the end, and I was
Hmm.
just he didn't even seem to care about any of the specimens. I was like, forget you. So I was sitting there bonking towers
Uh
and
huh.
getting all the specimens, and he's just down there like killing enemies and stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm up here getting all the specimens. Everybody's getting credit for it. So it's kind of cool.
Um. So one final thing that we'll touch on, way back in, not in Curse of Osiris, although also in Curse of Osiris, I guess, but way back in, what was it, Season of the Dawn, when we
Is this the
save,
Wayback Machine?
yeah, the Wayback Machine. Actually, it does involve the Wayback Machine. When we save Saint in the Perfect Paradox,
Here we go.
did you have any inkling that that Saint was not the Saint that left our timeline into the Infinite Forest?
Yes, and I will say immediately when we got the Perfect Paradox mission and
Hmm.
people found out that that's how you release Saint, I immediately had that thought like,
Yeah.
well, is this Saint? Is this Saint? Is this their actual Saint? And I even thought I even went further than that when we first met Osiris. I said,
Hmm.
is this even the Osiris that we know of Osiris? Because if if that Wayback Machine somehow was to navigate the corridors of time, blah blah blah. At what instance was the Osiris that we know the actual Osiris that left our timeline when we were back in the original tower,
Hmm.
and the speaker and all that crap was happening? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to wonder, like, but then you get into all kinds of meta questions, like
Hmm.
what when is somebody really themselves, and should it even matter, or are we denying ourselves the true form of the original person that was in our original timeline by
Hmm.
accepting this new version of them or this different version of them? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
I don't know. I
this
watched I watched that show Dark Mirror. I don't know if you've seen it. It's fantastic. And
Dark
it's
Mirror.
kind of Dark Mirror. My God, it's such a good show.
I know Dark and I know Black Mirror.
Yeah, so this is Dark Mirror.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
my wife read the book, and it was one of those like airport books, you know.
Uh huh.
She got the book and she was like, oh, I'll just read this, for fluff or whatever. And she read it and she was like, man, this is such a great book. And then she
Oh,
found out they
okay.
were doing a show for it later on. And she's like, we have to watch the show. I was like, what the hell is this? She was, I read this book a long time ago. It's really good. I was like, okay, we're watching it. And we watched
Yeah.
it. And my God, it's so good. A lot of people watched it too. They liked it.
Yeah.
But it wrestles with that whole idea of like, if you were a copy of yourself, would it even matter? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you found out, okay, let's say because this all relates. If a course of events happened to
Hmm.
where you found out that at some point in your timeline that you exist on right now, a former version of yourself went on a, like a separate timeline, had an adventure, whatever, and didn't return, but because they did that, there was a copy that went off on a separate timeline and did the same exact thing, but did succeed, and they came back, and you found out that you were the copy that succeeded and not the original one that didn't succeed.
Hmm.
Because apparently that can happen. When you start talking about theoretical physics and you start talking about alternate timelines and weird, these things that happen, dark matter apparently. Oh, that's what it was called. I keep calling it dark mirror. It's dark matter.
Because
I'm
I
an
looked it
idiot.
up, I couldn't find it.
Sorry, guys. It's dark matter. The
It's
show is
on
called Dark
Apple
Matter.
TV. Oh, it's a new
Yeah, it's really
show.
good.
It's this year.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
it's very good.
TV
It starts off a
miniseries.
it starts off a little bit of a slow burn through the like halfway through the first episode. You're like, okay, where's this going? And then at the end of the episode, you're like, oh shit, I'm in. I got to watch the rest of this.
Uh huh. Interesting.
Anyway,
Yeah. But this concept isn't even the first time it's actually happened in Destiny. The 227, Maya Sundaresh and
yes,
Kioma Esi, when their copies, which were not the originals, when their copies, of which there were 227 of them, went into the Vex network, they all broke off and all went and did their own things. And we have lore entries where there was like a Maya, or it was either a Maya who lost her Kioma or a Kioma who lost her Maya, and she would like go around the Vex network looking at other Maya slash Kiyomas, whichever it was, and being like, I want to be with them, but that's not my Maya. They're a different
Right.
person.
Right.
And I think what really draws the line is how different would Saint have been up to that point, because if the story was, here's the saint that loves Osiris, who's kind of grouchy and pushes it too far with the sundial, which is what we're calling the Wayback Machine, uh which is what is the Wayback Machine as we were referring to. And so Saint goes into the infinite forest or whatever, and gets stuck there. Like, the bulk events are the same, but it is those minor events that are different. And we actually get that in this week's radio message, where Saint says how, like, the first time he said I love you to Osiris, our Osiris and Saint have different memories, different
Do you want to
experiences.
stop right there, read the lore card, and then get into that, because that's all related.
This first one here, forward.
What you're
Oh, the
talking
lore
about right
card.
now.
Oh, semitone shift.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah, let's just get right into it then. Perfect timing.
Okay.
So brought to you from the Destiny Armory Defined is our weekly lore card, semitone kind of shift, baby.
Hey, baby. Hey, baby. Okay, so this one's an easy one, but I thought it was relevant because of the lore entry, which we'll delve into because we're already about to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes sense, because if you understand what a semitone shift is, you can glean what they're trying to set up narratively, and what this means, as far as like a parallelism for what the current event is in Destiny, and what's happening story wise, and how this relates to the Saint Osiris dynamic. So first off, we need to understand, what is a semitone shift. Well, the flavor text kind of gives you a clue, and it says it's an immeasurable change. And so that's kind of a funny, because it's a little bit of a play on words, because they use the word measure, which relates to music. And so if you say like something is immeasurable, that's also has another connotation to it, like it's barely noticeable. It's so small of a change you can't even measure it. That kind of idea, right? So like if
Mm-hmm.
you said this is an immeasurable change, it's to you it's insignificant, right? To the whole thing, to the whole work or the piece or the whatever. It's just so minor it shouldn't even matter. Um, but in music, a semitone shift is very much that. It's almost an immeasurable change, but it is a small pitch change in music. So it's when you alter a note by one semitone up, indicated by sharps or flats in notation. It's essential for melody, harmony, and modulation in compositions. So what does that mean? Well, basically, an example would be like moving from one piano key directly to the next, up or down, right? If you've ever been playing around with a keyboard or a piano, and you notice how the keys are right next to each other, some of them aren't complete tonal changes. They're in between notes, right? And
Mm-hmm.
what they do is in music composition, a lot of times they just allow you to give just a slight difference in the tone, so that you can either create a melody or have a beat change or follow to another note. So, like if you're thinking about somebody playing a riff or playing a melody, and it's very like A B B C C E D D whatever. Well, in between those notes are semitones, and they're flats and sharps. And so instead of just going, a B or whatever, or whatever, you can do like A sharp, and then lead to B, and then so like these particular notes allow somebody to basically give um, a structure to the composition in a way that wouldn't just be like straightforward notes being played in repetition, right? It gives it like a style, or it gives it like a little bit of a flavor, right? Um, but they're very insignificant. They're very small. They're very minor changes, and so a whole tone would be just those whole notes, that you hear. and then the octaves that those tones are split into are where we get the semitones. And so if you think of an octave as being divided into 12 semitones, these semitones are exactly equal in size. So for every note structure, every octave, there's a ratio that they use in music theory. And so an octave would be a ratio of 2 to 1. And so from 100 hertz to 200 hertz, that's how we measure, sound waves. Uh, those are both octaves. So you go from 100 hertz to 200 hertz. That's a measurable change. That's clear and understandable, and that's 2 to 1. But a semitone is a ratio that is a 12th root at 2 to 1. So that means it equals 1.05946 to 1. And so that 1000 hertz and 1059.46 hertz are a semitone apart. And so you can see that already is kind of like very small and different. Uh, but they're usually only noticeable when, it's an intentional mark in a song, or if it's left at the end with some refrain, or you might notice an accident when somebody's playing live and they accidentally slid too far on a scale and went to a sharp. It's just, or in jazz music when people are free forming and they play these notes in between, and sometimes they delve off into semitones just to give it like a little style or whatever. Anyway, enough of that techno garble. What I think is important to understand about the semitone shift is in Destiny, there are a lot of references to music and sounds, and basically the theory that the entire universe is vibrating on certain frequencies, and if you can attune yourself to certain frequencies, you can tap into the 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 rivers and the oceans of energy that reverberate throughout the galaxies and universe of our whole existence, right? So if you kind of think about Destiny in a way, and why do they refer to like the songs, Sabaton's songs, or like when you think about the Travelers music or sounds of uh even the Alpha Lupi visions and hearing the Traveler and all these things culminate around the same idea of being able to attune your whatever you are, yourself, your being, your essence, your anima, your driving force, the life force that is you, being able to attune that to a certain frequency so that you are now in harmony with whatever you're trying to become a conduit with, or trying to tap into. And so I think a lot of that gives us the kind of the origin of how paracausal abilities and our whatever you want to call it, our our supers, our the things that make us travelers, light bearing, whatnot, darkness, uh, using beings, is all stemming from that kind of theory of
Mhm.
being able to manipulate your surroundings and pulling out energy from thin air just because you've learned how to attune yourself to a set vibration that was in the universe, and being able to use these fundamental forces, or ethereal forces, I guess, if you want to think about the darkness as well. So, to wrap that all up in a neat little bow, the semitone shift here is really relevant because the lore entry talks about how Osiris is remembering the first time Saint 14 tells him he loves him. And then he struggles to say it back. But then he kind of has this little moment at the end of the lore entry where he realizes, well, everything that I do for Saint, and all the things that all the gestures and the motions and the who I am's and our relationship with each other has been me showing that I love him back. I just struggle to say it. And for whatever reason that was back in the time when Saint 14 was first to say, I love you to Osiris, and Osiris was struggling to say it back, could have came from a fear that he was going to lose Osiris or whatever. I mean, lose Saint, because Osiris, has a deep love for Saint 14 and doesn't want to lose him. So maybe there's something to that. But this lore entry talks about that specific time when Saint 14 tells Osiris he loves him, and it came at a time when Saint 14 was going through some tactical reports, paperwork, shuffling on the table or whatever, and Saint 14 says it almost like it's nothing. But when he says it, Osiris gets stunned and kind of shocked and like, oh my God, that's the first time you've ever said I love you to me, and that's he's having this moment, right? Well, that's a very like set in stone moment in time when Osiris remembers Saint 14 telling him he loves him, and Saint 14 remembers it as well. But in the story, in Echoes, what we're doing right now in Act Two, Saint 14, after being manipulated by the conductor, all of a sudden is face to face with an idea that he's a copy, and he comes back to Osiris and says, hey, remember the first time I said I love you? And Osiris is like, yeah, vividly, this happened, that happened. And then Saint was like, yeah, but my memory is different. And so that leads into what you're about to get into.
Well, yeah, and
Uh,
so specifically, I want to say it's not this that Saint says that his memory is different. He says that it happened differently in his simulation. So
yes.
he's not even just struggling with being a different state, he's struggling with the idea that he's even real, which that's something I've always questioned about the Infinite Forest because I'm trying to remember the name of the strike, but it's a strike where you used to get DFA, where you fight the Red Legion Cabal. Is that what they were called?
Yeah.
Red Legion? Red Legion Cabal trying to like muster
Death from
forces.
above.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it was like um this issue is here are these Red Legion and they're trying to get out of the Infinite Forest with all this like tech and all these like weapons and extra troops. And I remember thinking like, can they fucking leave? Like if they were not real,
Yeah.
can they just get out? Is it just
Yeah.
like a magic 3D printer? And so when Saint came out, I had that thought where I was like, but what if this isn't actually Saint? Like what if this is just simulation? And when Saint came out, I was like, I guess must be Saint because he came out. I was never really in the idea that like simulations can just free themselves with like
Yeah.
nothing,
But they
you know?
can apparently.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they can
So,
apparently because this
yeah.
saint is not our saint. And maybe it
Uh huh.
is literally a different timeline. Maybe he's not a simulation, maybe he's just another timeline because how many timelines has Essie uh, uh,
Yeah. Chioma.
no, not Essie.
Oh,
Straight
Elsie.
Elsie, thank you. How many timelines has Elsie fallen through? You know, it's like any one of those could have been the one that Saint was from. And so
Right.
it's a really tricky, unfortunate situation where you have these two people who are effectively strangers, not knowing that they're strangers because their feelings are close enough to blur those lines,
There you
which
go.
is
So
really fun to see.
that's
Oh,
and so that's a semitone shift.
yeah. Oh,
If you
yeah,
think
there you
about it.
go.
Yeah. You see what I mean? So that's
Yeah.
what they're gleaning. And so this shift is related to that. You're going to get it whenever you get all of the, I don't know, the specimen things or whatever, but it's viewable in the collection. So that's why I brought
Yeah.
it up. And I couldn't wait. I needed to talk about
Yeah.
it.
No, and since it is literally the conversation that just happened this week, I went
Yeah.
ahead and I re-tagged it to expire as a spoiler last week. So coming this
Okay.
Tuesday, it will no longer be flagged. There's no reason to let it stay as a red tagged spoiler on Ishtar when it's like
Yeah.
this is the conversation that they literally just
Really
talked
had.
about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it just even though you can't get it yet, that's fine. We don't
Yeah.
need that.
You might not have the
Um,
ship, but you can see it in game. You can
yeah,
see
and
it in,
that's always the
yeah.
gray area where it's like you can see it in game.
Yeah.
That means you should be able to see it on Ishtar, and it's like yeah, I
Yeah.
guess, but we try to make it.
Sometimes I don't like, I love going through the Ishtar when new content drops, but
Mhm.
sometimes we get things that you cannot view in game, like for
Hmm.
instance emotes, and they're not even, you can't look at them in the collections tab, so you
A,
can't go back and look at any emotes that you don't have. The
a
only ones
big
that are viewable are the ones you do have.
Yeah, a big issue
And so,
is interactions. You'll get interactions that
oh
don't
yeah,
happen for
yeah,
weeks, day one, and it's like, what?
and they're
W-
gone.
Yeah, and it's like this huge
Yeah,
revelation comes from an interaction, and it's like, no, 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 no. And obviously, Ishtar is not actually gonna hide it from you. They have, if you're not familiar with what happens on Ishtar, is they have two types of spoiler tags. There's the gray tag spoiler, which means it happened this week, and then there's the red tag spoiler, which means it happens at some point in the future, or that it's obtainable at some point in the future. Does that mean it's actually a spoiler? It might have no valuable information. It might just be like a nothing story, but
right.
because it's not obtainable, it's still a red tagged spoiler. Um, you're not barred from seeing it. You can remove it at your. It says hey, just in case you the reader don't want to accidentally see something you air quotes shouldn't see, they stop it for you. You're making the
Yeah,
choice to read.
right.
um
Yeah.
but yeah, so first week, I mean, it was a good one. It was fun. I like the idea of Axe having these like content drops, even if it's not really like new, fresh, like absolutely new, fresh, exciting content. It's still new content to come back and play a little bit of. There's a few new weapons to grind. I heard there were issues about what's it called, focusing, that you can't focus your weapons, which is a bummer.
Oh,
Or
weird.
maybe that's been resolved, but a solar rocket sidearm, that's amazing. I only have one
Yeah,
rocket sidearm and I love it,
yeah,
so I want them all. But
yeah. I like the rocket items. They're weird, but it's really, they hit hard, man.
yeah, they do. So then I think I want something else to get me through this. So let's get in with the lore book chirality.
Yeah.
Uh, Sorry, I'm looking right at it, and I don't know how to really start it. So we're gonna read this lore book as I said earlier. This is my first time reading it. I bet Rhino's already read it, especially
No,
seeing
I've only
you
read
haven't.
snippets. No, I've only
Ah,
read snippets of it. Yeah.
yeah, because like the very first entry, it's titled Forward, and the very first line is VanNet Secure Symmetry Status Review, by Ikora Ray. So it's about the faction symmetry, which we're hoping actually comes back into the spotlight of Destiny, or not back into the spotlight, but into the spotlight of Destiny. Maybe we see factions again, and maybe best of all, maybe one of those factions is the symmetry faction, which would be extremely fun for people like us.
I hope
So
so.
yeah, so we're just gonna read it, just like we have been recently. So I'll take the first one. The
Okay.
Symmetry, a faction considered a dangerous fringe group at the time of Ulan's Hand's life. Sorry, my mouse keeps scrolling down on me. While he and the Symmetrists seemed more likely now than before to have comprehended some essential truth to the universe, at the time their beliefs were justly considered alarming. Little wonder that other opinions on light and dark were more attractive, with walls beset from all directions and new allies to be found. While none of the official Vanguard doctrine, the Praxic Creed, and the Pajari position were much more in line with attitudes in the Tower and the city at large. While none was official I don't know, the
Yeah.
way that it's written, this makes me feel like all my inflections are wrong.
Yeah, there was a weird cadence to it. It's just like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ikora really wants to sound smart. Uh, The Praxic Creed holds that the nature of darkness is not worth investigating. One should focus on combating the darkness rather than knowing it. The Acataleptic clause holds that the darkness cannot be understood at all. The two are convenient bedfellows, and we long held the notion that the study of darkness was to risk being subsumed by it. I am still not wholly convinced that these theories are inherently wrong, only that those of our allies who have succeeded in that study are both skilled and fortunate. The warlock Pujari's position, on the other hand, holds that the darkness has a moral valence that is an actualization of evil. We have been forced to wrestle with such moral standing again and again that these past several years. Purity of purpose compels to see evil and defend those who cannot defend themselves is righteous, but to assume that this act of defense confers righteousness upon us and villainy upon our opponents is a fallacy. It is a slippery slope. I have come to believe this mindset must now be discarded. Pajari's dreams and comprehensions of darkness should, in fact, be attributed to the being known as the Witness. For now, I return my focus to the symmetry. To acknowledge the symmetry at the time of their origin would have required a systemic change in our approach to the darkness, something impossible at the time with the Dark Age still haunting the hard won progress of the City Age. To insist that darkness, our enemy, would be eternally undefeatable, required to exist forever by virtue of our light, unthinkable then. Now we, again, now we begin to accept that with the light there is darkness, and with the darkness there is light. It almost seems a comfort now to think that the two forces require each other, even in the depths of these uncharted waters, where the traveler is injured and the fight for survival more critical than it has ever been. It is on us that our future hinges, not something incomparable and unreachable. Light and darkness will continue. Whether or not we will do so is up to us. We must make it so. That is all that matters. And then there's a little addendum. Saint 14's position is the most eminently practical of the bunch, no matter how the man himself protests that such an obvious facet of the truth doesn't require a formal philosophical stance to be named for him.
Yeah.
And so this is actually,
I love that part.
yeah, I actually really enjoy all of that because Pajari position, to get it quick. This all goes way back to the grimoire entry, The Darkness, which was from like Destiny launch,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
uh
OG.
it's yeah, it's explaining like what the darkness is, and it's like the Pajari position describes the darkness as a force with both physical and moral presence, blah 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 blah. Saint 14's position argues the darkness was an invading armada, an alien force of incredible but tangible power. Ulan Tan's thesis considers the darkness as necessary symmetry to the traveler, blah blah blah. And then the one that they didn't mention, the monist position or the deflationary position, considers the darkness as a technologically sophisticated force, perhaps a post singularity intelligence. Maybe they didn't mention it because it doesn't seem to be true, but maybe it is true.
Or maybe it's one of those meta answers which has to do with Bungie and them as a whole, or the creators of the game. I always wondered like what they were talking about when they wrote that Monas position, because it's funny if you think about like some overarching in entity, sentient entity that's outside the game. Anyway,
Wait a second. Wait a
it's,
second. Wait a second. Considers the darkness as a technologically sophisticated force, perhaps a post singularity intelligence. What does that mean? What does post singularity intelligence mean?
so the singularity, so it's funny because there isn't really a post singularity, that doesn't exist. So a singularity is just how it sounds. It's when you have the singular origin point for something's existence or whatever. When you talk about the
Ah,
singularity in space and
okay.
science, it is the point of no return. It is the final moment of whatever
Yeah.
you're talking about, whether it be black holes, dark matter, space, whatever, a sun's death, la la la.
Yeah.
Uh, but
Specifically,
post singularity would imply that there's something afterwards.
well, in this case, because it's saying a technologically sophisticated force, they mean a
Yeah,
technological singularity, which is
yeah,
when robots become as smart as humans. So it's
yeah,
post that event, which
yeah.
is not the case. So maybe that's why the Monas position was left out of there, because then it also does have the acataleptic clause, which claims intrinsically unable to understand the darkness, and certain positions often labeled heretical such as
Well, it
The
wrestles
binary.
with that idea that it wrestles with that idea because, like, the monist position would say that everything's going to reduce itself to one finite singular origin point, and then everything that's happening will finally reach a singularity, like you said, where
Hmm.
everything is shared and nothing matters anymore. And then the atelectic, whatever you said, is basically banishing all thoughts or ideas about what a position is and just denying anything and basically going on about it without needing an answer. So, like,
Hmm.
it's very much like how humans exist. You know, some people think that everything's going to end up, you know, like, I don't want to get into it, but like everything's going to end up being absorbed in some greater consciousness, right? And we're all going to be one with the universe. And then there's other people that say, no, I reject all those schools of thought. I don't need an answer for my existence, and I'll just go on living my gift of a life that I have for whatever reason and stop trying to think and understand it, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so sandwiched in between those two ideas are all of the different positions. And so that's why it's funny because they put that in that darkness grimoire so that when you read it, you get those different positions. And so when Ikora mentions at the end of this lore entry, or I'm sorry, book entry, uh, the little asterisk, it says Saint 14's position is the most eminently practical of the bunch, no
Yeah.
matter how the man himself possessed that such an obvious facet of the truth doesn't require a formal philosophical stance to be named for him. And that goes to Saint's character because Saint 14, he's, they call him Saint for a reason, right? Because he's
Because that's his
so,
name.
yeah, well, he's such a good guy at the core of himself
No, it's
that
because that's his
he doesn't need.
name.
No, but like think
You
about it.
think
Like
he has
why is his
another
name?
name? You think that's like a nickname?
No, I just think there's a reason for his name.
Oh, okay.
And
You
so like
okay? I gotcha. I gotcha.
yeah. And so like wouldn't a saint just be like, I don't need you to come up with a position named after me.
Yeah.
I'm humbled, right?
Yeah, because the Saint
Anyway,
position is that it's an invading armada, an alien force of incredible tangible power. So it's
right.
basically it's like he's kind of taking he's kind of pulling the rug out from under the acataleptic clause, which claims that it's
Yeah.
intrinsically unable to understand the darkness, and he's like, no, we can understand it. It's the bad guys. Let's just get to
Yeah.
fighting it. Like that's basically what he's saying.
Yeah, let's just fight it. Let's punch it. It's funny because Saint's character, I'm just gonna headbutt a
Yeah,
Kel and go. Who cares? Let's just beat him.
yeah. It's simple. They're the bad guys.
Yeah,
Let's go.
simple. Smash. Go. Stop talking.
Yeah,
Which is so funny because the person he loves the most is Osiris, who is just all about thought and overthinking everything. And so, like, it's a really good
well,
dynamic.
yeah, no, you need them both. You need
Yeah,
you need the ones that are just action first, and you need the ones who are gonna like try to understand it. You
yeah,
can't progress
yeah.
without both of them.
And see, that's why I love Ulan Tan the most, is because his in the realm of like existence and destiny as a character, as far as like everybody, to keep the story going forward. I feel like Ulan Tan's the most uh, the thing that I gravitate towards the most because his idea is, yeah, no, like, you've got to embrace both darkness and light are from the same origin point or whatever,
Hmm.
and they share commonality, and you've got to use both. They're not against each other. They're not opposing forces. It's a balance, right? And we learn that. And so when he was outcasted or thought of as heretical, I guess, or what
Hmm.
the term they use, uh, originally, it was because at the time people thought light and dark were at odds with each other and had to be in order for humans to survive. And so you had to embrace
Yeah,
the light, and which is why the Praxics are so adamant about defeating anybody who embraces darkness, or that's
yeah.
how they were. I don't know how they are now.
And I mean, Ikora is not wrong here. When in this book entry where she calls us fortunate. I will not. I am still not wholly convinced that these theories are inherently wrong. Only that those of our allies who have succeeded in that study are both skilled and fortunate, because we do have multiple instances where people go to the dark and in some fashion they get like swept up in the witness's ideology, and it's like, well, how related is that to picking up stasis? You know, maybe they picked up stasis and they were always just kind of gonna go that way anyway. You know, we don't know. They had the right opportunity, and stasis was just the final domino that to fall. That like,
Right.
or the first domino to fall, I guess.
Yeah, the first
I don't.
domino.
Stasis knocked over I don't know. That's stasis is it was the final piece of the puzzle to make them go to the witness's side, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. The
And it's
stasis was
like,
the finger that pushed the first guy.
sure, I want to get away from the dominoes. The dominoes did not work. All
Hopefully,
right,
it's raining, and hopefully this is not coming through on our recording.
I don't hear it in
Okay.
mine, and it should be what I hear they hear. So I
Okay.
also hope. Would you like to read the
I
next
just
entry, or
yes.
all
Yeah.
right?
I just worry because it's like
Yeah, you want a
it's a
good
metal roof
quality.
in the shop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So omnivorous.
No, no,
Uh
no. One more
I'm
up.
sorry.
Symmetry.
Oh, symmetry. Yeah, this is the good one.
Yeah.
I didn't read all of the latter ones, but I read these first three or four.
Hmm.
Okay. So symmetry, excerpt from Van Net letter to Ikora Ray, sender multiply anonymized over relays. The symmetrists, even still, are viewed as something from the edges of society. City regulations hold that our philosophies are dangerous to permit, though guardians in prominent positions or public blood sport are less reserved than ever about using darkness based abilities. Happy to wield stasis without a second thought. I write today to suggest that should the consensus be reformed or some other non military government body be formed of a representative portion of the city, the symmetry and its students and followers ought to not only be included, but embraced. The Praxic Order may have their duty to combat darkness all they want, but basing political and military positions on the fever dreams of one warlock, yes, I speak here of the Pajari position, is misguided at best. Since when have dreams been acceptable testimony, save perhaps from the speaker? If you wish to tell me that Pajari was in direct communication with the traveler, you will have to bear the due burden of proof in its entirety. It is more than clear that the idea of darkness as a morally evil force without room for compromise is hopelessly outdated, and policy must be revised. Does a shadow have any moral attributes because it may obscure where we are going? Is the sunshine inherently good because it eliminates a path? They are both required to delineate one another. And even if they did carry intention, if the blotting out of the sun every night was an act of an unspeakable evil, such concepts as good and evil are still defined by their relationships to each other. What is evil? Is it not good? Light and darkness, the paracausal forces known to the traveler and the witness, these are not as simple to define as sudden shadow. But an understanding of darkness is required no matter if one chooses to remain immersed in light or balance both. Refusal to accept the understanding will forever render the truth unclear. If light ever truly defeated darkness, that defeat would be our fate too. Our best hope lies in understanding darkness and its balance to light, in seeking the perfect symmetry that will right our universe. Perhaps you will read this as a cultish devotion to a deceased figurehead. Perhaps there is no convincing anyone Ulan Tan was undoubtedly right. But I digress. In purely practical, non debatable matters, public attitudes towards darkness and its forces no longer match long held city positions about the symmetry. I would see our theories and teachings being made publishable, our inherent words welcome to the table where the end of all things is addressed. When you are ready to open further dialogue, signal the philosopher's message board. I am sure you are already monitoring.
I don't know who that
Pretty
is,
good.
but I love them. That is so
Isn't it
that is
good?
so awesome.
That's the best.
Yeah. That those first few paragraphs were just like so filled with venom, and I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like when you're being like the political level-headed whatever, but like you can still get some shots in. It's
Yeah.
gotta be clever about it. That
I like
stuff's awesome.
I like the end too because they're basically like, I know you're already listening to me, so please
Yeah.
please let me know when you figure it out.
What's that? I don't want to actually relate it to that show because I don't know anything about that show. Just that my wife loves it, so never mind.
Mm.
But yeah. Do you have anything more to say about it other than again that we hope that symmetry does get more of a forefront?
Oh man, I just it would be great. Like I don't know why. Maybe there's like this weird set thing where they have to have everything in threes, but if they have to consider a separate faction replacement
Hmm.
for Future War Cult, I hope it's a symmetry because that almost happened originally anyway, and the fourth Future War Cult pushed them out.
It's not. It's not. Sorry, I have something in my mouth, like a hair or something. Um, it's not just future war cult that they need to replace. They need to replace all three.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Well, what would they do though?
Dead orbit. Dead orbit
Is it a
left.
trinary star cult?
Well, obviously you don't want the ones that are against the traveler, like openly
Yeah, yeah,
against the traveler. I can understand not having them, but to ever say that and I mean I guess I get it. You had to be a little reserved. You couldn't have people just like going and embracing darkness back then. Like it was a fucking
sure,
scary thing. But like we're past it. You need to be able to accept them now. But the
sure.
binary trinary star cult who's like actively like let's just fucking kill the traveler. Maybe don't have them. They're not there for peaceful reasons. um, but it would be interesting to see if Dead Orbit would come back, like if any factions of Dead Orbit would come back, because
Right.
now I honestly think that they should. I've always been a Dead Orbit follower.
Me too.
When it was Future War Cult, New Monarchy, Dead Orbit, you had New Monarchy. Absolutely fucking not. Never would I ever side with
No.
what New Monarchy wanted. They were sketchy as hell. They
Yeah.
were not for the good of the people whatsoever. Although I say that with also saying that they wanted Zavala to be the like final say in all matters. They picked a good guy for it. So
True.
they weren't entirely like corrupt, but they were not good people. Um,
Right.
Future War Cult, I respected because their whole philosophy was always just like, there's always another war. You're never going to escape it. And I'm like, you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
I don't want to join
Perpetual
you, but
war.
you're right. Dead Orbit, everyone always says like, oh, they're emo, oh, they're this, they're that, whatever. And it's like, no, because Dead Orbit saw what Future War Cult saw and was like, there's always going to be another fight, and there's always going to be something coming to kill us. And they wanted humanity, no matter what, to survive. And the best
Yep.
way to accomplish that is to spread humanity everywhere. They might
Yep.
die, they might die, they might live. They might die,
Yep.
they might live. They might live, you
Yep.
know? And it also had like a very optimistic side to it as well, where it's like we get that there's a massive war going on right now, but we're not the ones because it's human factions. Although there are
Sure.
guardian representatives, factions are a human organization, a non-guardian organization, a non-light bearing organization. And although they like to pretend that non-light bearers are in the fight ever since Destiny 2's original launch with Hawthorne, no, they're not. And Dead Orbit understood that, and Dead Orbit said, "You know what? If we can't even fight anyway, why don't we just go see some cool shit?
Yeah.
Life's too short. Let's go fucking explore." They held this position of like just because the dark age happened, that everyone forgot that the golden age happened. And it's like, it used to be
Right.
that we wanted to expand and we wanted to grow
Right.
and we wanted all this. Now everyone's like, we want to hold on to this tiny little city and that's all that matters. And then everyone's like, no, there's a lot out there. We don't
Well,
want
what's
just this
what's
city.
what the best way to sum up Dead Orbit for me is, and I didn't originally have this uh you know idea about myself when
Mm-hmm.
Destiny 1 came out and I joined the Dead Orbit faction, because I'm a Dead Orbit for lifer, until something
Yeah.
else happens. But I always knew that the Dead Orbit was trying to keep humanity existing, basically, and spreading it throughout the universe was the only
Mm-hmm.
way. And so I later learned, and now I've adopted it for myself and my own thought of a term, which is called optimistic nihilism. If you're ever wanting to look it up, look it up. It's a relatively newer concept, I guess, or it now has a good name for it, I guess. But it's basically the school of thought that that nihilism is basically the idea that that your existence in your time might not matter right now, but there will be a future time when it does matter. And it might not be you, it might be somebody way off in the future, descendant from your lineage of thought, that will make a difference and keep us evolving and hitting that next uh, level of consciousness or whatever it needs to be. So optimistic nihilism is a good idea because it very much ties in with the philosophy of Dead Orbit. It's like, we got to get out of here because we got to keep humanity's existence as thought. We got to keep this, what we are, whatever we are, going.
Yeah.
And I might die. The people after me might die. We might all just get wiped off. But somewhere out there, there will be some version of us that will progress and evolve
Mm-hmm.
and succeed in some capacity. And
So,
yeah,
yeah. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Finish your thought.
yeah, yeah. I love this picture.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to say it for our audio listeners. I have an image titled nihilism, and on the left side, the stereotype. It's black and white, head in their hands. Nothing in life matters. It's very sad. And the reality of nihilism, if you're doing it right, is it's this fucking rad guy giving a thumbs up. It says nothing in life matters with an exclamation point. And he's in space, and there's a shark behind him, and
Yeah,
it's like fuck yeah. That's
yeah.
Dead Orbit right there. Don't get confused just because they like the black and white color scheme. That's Dead
Right,
Orbit
right.
right there.
Isn't it true though? And all factions did that. They all had like on the face of it, you look at New Monarchy and you go, "Oh man, that's a really moral, just cause. They're awesome. They're all about protecting humanity and humans and saving people." And then you
Yeah.
read their freaking seven tenets, and you're like, "Oh my god, this is nefarious as
And
shit."
you don't even need to go that far because it's just like, oh, they're all about like helping humanity and keeping everyone going and everything. And it's like, then you talk to Hawthorne and like how much Hideo like personally hated a child. And it's like, whoa,
Yeah,
buddy,
what the
what the
hell?
fuck? It's like, no, you don't get to have food because you're not a part of
Yeah,
us. It's like, oh,
yeah.
okay. That's what you
And then
mean.
and the Future War Cult was in the middle, and they
Yeah.
always seemed just cool because they were all like, "Yeah, war, let's make
Yeah.
weapons and blow shit up. That's
Yeah.
fun." But then you had this whole side of like, they're looking into the future and they're doing shit behind the closed doors that nobody knows about, and they have
Hmm.
knowledge about the Vex network and stuff. Why is that okay?
And obviously it didn't go okay. But
Yeah,
that's life as well, that's kind of what they stood for.
yeah.
But
Okay,
let's keep moving. Well, I'll read Omnivorous.
yeah.
You might
This
say
is a good
now,
one, by the way. I really like this one. Drifter is crazy.
awesome, let's go. You might say now, or you might say now, Drifter. What do you know about light and dark? You've been around this old galaxy and back again. You have some wisdom you can put into simple words for a guardian who just wants to get to punching. Maybe, maybe you'll owe me a round, hotshot. All right, now we're talking. Light and dark. Lots of prissy words people throw around with them. Hypothesis, this, position, that, clause my left toe. Waste of time, all of it, if you ask me. Because ain't much difference out there when you get to the thick into the thick of things. Oh, don't look at me like that. Sure, you got creation and destruction, you got solar and stasis, yeah. I ain't saying there's no difference at all. The way you feel about them, the things you see when you look at them, but cold and hot are both still temperatures, you see. And ice still burns when it's cold enough. Void's light, you know. Of course you do now. People used to think it was too close to the darkness. And for what? Because it was a little purple, warp a bit of gravity, consume a spot of fire, and suddenly everybody's a critic. You know what I think? Harder to cook with void. Don't like that comparison? Fine, fine. How about this? Thrall are just as dead whether you set them on fire or break every individual plate of their exoskeleton. Better? People got friendly with the light, thought just because it was what raised them that it'd never raise a hand to them. Shah Han down in his Cosmodrome teaching new lights that the light's no more dangerous than a puppy. Listen, when I say light and dark are closer than people think, what I mean is this. They'll both eat you if you give them half a chance. Now that's symmetry, ain't it? That is a good
Boom,
one.
isn't it? And I
Yeah.
love because there's a couple of things to digest there. First is the obvious remark about cooking, because it's the drifter and he has this reputation of just eating everything. And so that was hard to like listen to him talk about using that analogy
Hmm.
because gross, drifter, gross. So here's something you will listen to. And
Yeah.
he's right though. He's right because light and dark, it doesn't matter. They're there. It's how you use it.
Hmm.
A good example is Siva. Siva was a perfectly created material used to, just do unimaginable things. But look what happened when it fell into the wrong hands.
Yeah.
And it had no moral position. It had no thought. It had nothing. It was just a code that could be used in a good way or in a bad way,
Hmm.
right? Darkness and light, same idea. And so that idea that void's light is, it can cook as well. It's just harder to cook, like
Yes.
that makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah. Oh, and
But
one,
like, yeah, cold
yeah.
burns too. It's great.
One way to think about it as well is even though they weren't harnessing the light, all of fallen technology was built with the gift of light, like
Yeah,
with that
yeah,
knowledge that came from the traveler coming to aid their people. And it's like,
yeah. We
yeah,
forget
so
that. We
so when
forget that a lot.
when a servitor kills you or whatever, it's like, yeah, that was built with the light, buddy.
Yep, yep, yep. We do take that for granted in the game. We oftentimes just forget that the fallen literally were us before,
Yes.
and so anyway.
And so do you want to read this the next one, Transformations of Matter? Because we probably have enough time to read one more, but there's also something else I wanted to talk about. Do you think we'll
Okay.
have enough time to finish this book next episode? We'll have to keep the intros short.
Yeah, next episode definitely.
Even if we don't read Transformations?
No, we should read transformations and then
Okay, okay.
we'll talk
Well,
about what you want to talk
why
about.
don't you read it quick then?
Okay. Transformations of matter. Would that I had more text from the philosopher of Reese, but time is limited. It's funny in the frenzy of an evacuation, and so too is this space. Data itself is non-negligible. Sorry, butchering words.
Negligible.
Yeah. The first to go is that practical value, or should I say, immediate practical value. Art and philosophy are vital to a culture, to a people. Their losses are always keenly felt. But in immediacy, art cannot distill ether, and philosophy cannot propel a ship. Such is the required brutality or brutal practicality of preserving a people. But something has occurred to me, and I am putting out a request in my capacity as scribe to gather information from any Elixni who may be capable of answering. For every brutal practicality, there is a tender sentiment that arises in exchange. The new sprout beside the cold stalk. There's always something that someone cannot bear to part with. The point? The thing that I have lingered on, we Elixni and our human compatriots have a view of the light that is built on different foundations, and it has resulted in such similar concepts as to think to be difficult to distinguish. In retrospect, I think perhaps there have been hints, but there's always something else requiring attention. The pursuit of relics, the safety of House Light, the imminent apocalypse brought upon us by the Pyramid Fleet, and the Witness. Now, as those of us who cannot forge forward, wait, and hope, I turn to philosophy. This is what I've been pondering. It seems that the human view of light is based on the creation of something from nothing, while Elixni view of light is based in the transformation of one thing into a different thing. The two overlap more frequently than not. Take, for instance, Mars. Did the traveler itself create the oxygen humans need to breathe, or did it transform carbon dioxide from the atmosphere as it was? Does the difference ultimately matter? And additional thought, the idea of the traveler as gardener seems to have gained traction amongst humans of the tower and of the city. It is of interest to know. It is of interest to those who have read the unveiling text, especially. Gardening is in its own way transformative. A gardener, four hands in rich earth, coaxes something forward that had once only existed as possibility. The seed, given the right resources, becomes a tree. With the core of the seed remaining at the heart of the new growth, I find the image particularly compelling. The Elixni of Reese thought of the traveler as a great machine, and while it gave them gardens, the most vital thing it did was to allow ether to flow like water, free and plentiful. Ether, we know, does not come from nothing. The machine takes that which is given and makes of it something else. Servitors, still to this day, they require something from with to create ether. We know this intimately, inescapably. I think neither of us is right. I think neither of us is wrong. I think as we walk into the future together, it is beyond vital to preserve the many facets of light seen through our many eyes, machine and gardener and traveler all. Excerpt from one of the many journals of Ido, scribe of House Light. She's pretty awesome.
Oh, that was good timing with what I just said.
Yep, that
Uh,
was.
but yeah, that's really interesting, and about the idea that like is the traveler just converting matter, and it probably that's where I would believe. I never really thought that light was just something from nothing. I always thought it was something from something.
Yeah,
Uh, but
definitely.
what that other something is, uh, that kind of gave me like weird vibes of like if Destiny ever fucking goes through with creating this like expanded universe, there's like a horror story that could be said on like an Elixni ship where it's like, well, we have servitors and they need something and I need ether
Yep.
and I don't need you. It's like into the fucking servitor.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Yeah.
But so just before we go, the one thing I wanted to say is in the beginning of this act, we got another cutscene. Completely forgot about this, which
Oh yeah.
explained more so what the echoes are. Because we had a little bit of a confusion about what echoes were. Well, maybe not confusion. We said that there's kind of like two ways they can go with it because our first echo is the conductor. But now it seems the echo is not the conductor. The echo is what the conductor is using, and that makes
Correct.
much more sense with our
Yeah.
next is the next one Revenant, the vampire season episode.
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
That makes much more sense with Revenant, which we said maybe Revenant is an item that takes over the Fic roll. Uh, in this case, it's not. It's Fic roll found another echo themselves, and they're using it seemingly to compel Fallen into vampirism, which I don't fucking know, but I'm excited. I don't know what it's
I
gonna
do too.
do.
It sounds great.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah, so we will be
Yeah.
back in 2 weeks. We'll be back on August 4th. There shouldn't be any problem with that. We'll wrap up this book. I'm sure we'll have less to talk about in the front because it won't be a new act, which obviously has more to talk about. So
Well,
we'll wrap up.
we got a little bit of time. We can close out the show with a little bit about
Oh, okay,
what you were
okay.
talking about if you want. So,
Yeah, of course.
um,
Yeah.
so in summary, basically what happened in the Echoes cutscene, how
Mhm.
you were talking about how the light and the dark had a collision, obviously, when
Okay, yeah.
we yeah, yeah, we defeated the witness. And so those memories, as they
Mhm.
stated, went hurling out into space in all directions, and one of them collided on Nessus. And
Mhm.
that is the best thing that they could come up with to call it. Was, and they made that clear, that last cutscene, is that they don't really have any other reason why they call it an echo other than the
Mhm.
fact that it's the closest word they could figure out that would
Yeah.
yeah, explain what it is, right? uh but the echo very much is a memory of that darkness that collided with the light. And so that
Specifically, a
memory,
memory of a race that the witness's forces, like, messed up.
yes, yeah, there we go. So in that regard, if you think of it, all of those, that race that comprised that the witness was comprised of, all of those entities that made the witness, they weren't all a singularity, to use a word from earlier. They
Mhm.
weren't all a singularity. They didn't all share the exact same philosophy, thought, ideas, whatever, because we saw that friction, we saw those arguments, we uncovered that lore and understood that there was a little bit of a power struggle between them. And that's the reason why the witness existed in the first place, is because they basically made the decision, well, everybody that doesn't agree with this, we're just going to, suck you all up, and that's it, right?
Mhm.
So when you think about these fragments hurling into space, you have to kind of like give room for the idea that these particular entities that are hurling out there might not all have the exact same idea or same school of thought. And so this one that's on Nessus could be totally different from the one that we might encounter later, you know, with Thickroll, or the one even later on the Dreadnought, if that
Mhm.
happens. So these echoes that hurled out could have very much uh, been different, you know, whatever the race people were before they became the witness. And I'm interested to know like what that dynamic was, because if we think of the witness as being that one entity that was all those people, how did those people really structure themselves in day-to-day life? Because if it's a lot like we are, when we were talking about the factions, there was a lot of power struggle there. And you talk about the consistent consensus, it very much mirrors exactly what our political confrontations are in game now. And so, I'm not saying that it would happen, but we did have, or we know about, that there was a faction war. And we know
Mhm.
that there were people that just flat out could not agree. And so they resorted to fighting each other. And they were of the same freaking, vanguard, whatever.
Yeah. Well, when you need something to do, right?
When you need, well, war is the great unifier and divider.
Yeah.
It's scary to think, because like we've bested the big enemy, right? Here we are. We've defeated the big baddie.
Mhm.
Uh, but that wasn't it. Like here's the little what would you call it? The encore of the bad guy. You know, so uh, ultimately, what could happen is these memories, or these fragments of that collision in darkness and light, could ultimately create another foe or create another bad guy like the witness. And so that's what we're trying to snuff out. We're trying to cut those buds off before they blossom into something horrible that could just annihilate everything in the universe. Or
Mhm.
that's what we think we're trying to do. I just wanted to make that kind of clear in a way, so that people could like understand, like, some people might be playing a game and really not really understand, like, why are we still like, we beat the witness, what's the point, right? Or
Mhm.
why would we keep doing this fight, right? Well, it's
Yeah,
because
there's
there's still an existential threat out there.
there's always, like I said, there's always another thing.
Yeah. I like that in the live Bungie stream, they basically talked about that was, that, and we've said it on here a long time ago. There's a power vacuum. They love to use uh, that word, the power vacuum. So when a power vacuum is created, something fights to fill that slot,
Do you
and
have
you
a
have all of
bird?
these. Oh yeah, there is a bird out here chirping.
Yeah, I hear
Can
it.
you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear the
Uh-oh.
bird.
Uh
Sorry, sorry, I heard it and I was like, "What the fuck?"
Tell
completely,
that damn bird
completely
to shut
overwrote
up.
everything going on.
Sorry. I knew that was going to happen. Nobody hears the rain, and then all of a sudden, this little tiny
Well,
bird.
the bird in the background is the smallest thing to deal with.
Okay, okay, yeah. Sorry.
And
Anyway, I
sorry,
just wanted
sorry
to
to
say that
interrupt. I just ADHD brained it.
yeah. I was just trying to say that the power vacuum thing,
Hmm.
it creates an opportunity for anybody who wants to rise up and take that mantle of responsibility on again. Uh, and so, you know,
Man,
my biggest fear in the long term is Savathun, Ziva Arath, all that kind of crap, because they have the potential right now. They have the potential to basically seed themselves in another form or grow into another threat if
yeah,
they
no,
if they wanted to.
I'm glad that you said that we still had more time. I thought you didn't have time because we were like at around the time that you need a dip. I still had time, but so I'm glad that we got to have this conversation because you just put the thought in my head. Uh, so obviously the first echo is the collar that is worn by the conductor, and the second
Yep.
echo. I don't know if they've previewed what it is. I think they previewed what it was in that trailer, but another object that is used by Fickroll. Do we know who the enemy in Heresy is? We just know that it's on the Dreadnought,
We no, that's right. Yeah, we
and
don't
we assume,
specifically know. Yeah, we just assume it's Fickroll is,
well, in
the one.
Heresy, not in Revenant,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
and
oh,
so
oh, 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 oh. No, we don't.
and so I remember thinking that little I had a tweet about it that like you're sitting in front of the Traveler watching the Aurora coming out of it, whatever they called it, and Crow's giving his Hunter Vanguard report, and he's like, oh, there's some shit going on Nessus, and then I'm gonna go look out for Fick Roll again, and then also we need to keep tabs on Savathun. And I remember thinking, it's like, okay, so we got we got Echoes, we got Revenant, we got Heresy. That's what it's gonna be. But now I'm kind of thinking, what if it's actually Zivu Arath? What if we're taking out Zivu Arath and Heresy, but not just that we're taking out Zivu Arath? What if Zivu Arath picked up an Echo,
Oh shit.
right? Like
Yeah.
she's not the god of war anymore, but now she's a Hive X god with an Echo.
Oh crap.
Yeah, that's not good.
See, there you go.
I wonder what that would translate as. Because if
You know,
Echoes
an,
are all
another
about
thing.
like compelling, it's just like she can compel the Taken again.
Yeah,
That's kind of a
yeah.
weak sauce to use, but it's like, so it's got to be something more than just that, right? It's
Well, I
like,
think there was a hint because in the, like I said, going back to the Bungie live thingy
mhm,
recording whatever YouTube video, um,
should look into that again.
they yeah, you should. They basically, because it's funny because if you go back and watch those videos, you're like, oh shit, yeah, that's what they're setting up. Anyway, they did say another thing was like what you just said about the memory compelling, and using that to basically influence the baddies to become the next thing, right?
Hmm.
Um, if that's the case, you can see how I guess technically Thickrell would have succumbed to that idea, and so that makes me wonder if these echoes have that type of power, that manipulative force.
Hmm.
Uh, that could be a very dangerous thing because if you think about like Ziva or Wrath becoming influenced by a
Oh
memory
yeah.
of the darkness, yeah,
Yeah, that's the other thing.
like
Does the Echo influence its user as well? Yeah.
yeah, Yeah.
Huh.
Anyway, that it was just another thing to think about.
Yeah, that's exactly what it would do actually. Now that I say that out loud, it's like, here's this device that lets you control people. And it's like, I get to control people? Yeah. You don't control me, right? No. Promise. Like, of
No,
course
yeah,
they
that's the
fucking
ticket.
do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good
Shit.
place to end it.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I'm very happy to end it there. But yeah, so as I was saying, our next episode will be on August 4th. We'll be back here, same time, same place. And while you were talking, I noticed that we could actually add our links. I don't know how long this was a thing that I just haven't done. We can add our links on the bottom of this page. And so now,
Oh
instead of
shit.
pointing at our show, I'm gonna point down at that direction to all the links are there. So if you want to find us, all our information's on Twitter, but we also have our YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, which doesn't have its own logo, which is funny. I would have posted Google Podcasts, but those are fucking gone now. all the pod all the podcast apps are gone because we were hosted on Anchor, but now it's Spotify. I used to use
Yeah.
Stitcher, but then Stitcher went away, and so then I used to use Google Podcasts, and then Google Podcasts went away, and now I don't know
Went
what the hell
away.
to
Yeah.
use. It's a mess right
They're like
now.
the witness. They're like the witness and echoes. They keep
Yeah. But YouTube's still going strong. Spotify, I don't think Spotify's going away anytime soon. And
Yeah.
so and Apple, because they would never not have a proprietary source. So
Bastards.
if you want to listen to us, if you came in late, you want to find us, you can go to any of these. On our Twitter, our pinned tweet will actually have a lot of outdated information, but our pinned tweet is a link tree with everything that is already there if you want to take extra steps to find it. Um, so we hope you all have a good one, everybody. We're going to be taking off. Bye.
Bye.